Tonight, we're remembering 10 R&B songs from the 1960s that quietly became part of everyday life. These were the records that played from kitchen radios, car dashboards, and late-night stations that seemed to understand exactly how we felt. They weren't just songs climbing the charts. They were the sound of growing up, falling in love, waiting by the phone, and learning the shape of our own hearts. And the final one on this list, it's the kind of song that never really faded away. Let's begin with number 10. Number 10, Stand By Me by Benny King.
When the night
And in this corner, Benny King. Hey!
When this song arrived in 1961, it didn't storm the room. It simply walked in, steady and sure, like someone you trusted immediately. The early 60s were still finding their musical voice.
stand by me, so darling, darling.
Rock and roll had already shaken things up, but R&B was beginning to settle into something deeper, something that carried both gospel roots and street corner harmony. This song captured that balance perfectly. The rhythm moves with quiet confidence, a bass line that feels almost like a heartbeat, and above it, that voice, strong but gentle, delivering words that felt both personal and universal.
I won't cry, I won't cry, no I won't.
One small detail made the recording unforgettable. That opening bass line. Simple, deliberate, impossible to mistake for anything else. The moment it begins, the room changes. For a lot of people, this was the kind of song that played during long drives home after an evening out.
Darling, darling, stand by me.
The kind that filled quiet spaces when words weren't needed. It wasn't loud comfort. It was steady comfort. And sometimes, that's the kind that lasts the longest. If that song felt like a quiet promise, the next one carried something different. A little more fire and a lot more determination. We'll get to that in number 9. Number 9, by Aretha Franklin.
What you want, baby, I got. What?
By the middle of the 1960s, something had started to shift in the sound of R&B. The music was still soulful, still rooted in church and rhythm, but there was a new sense of confidence rising through the speakers. When this record arrived in 1967, it didn't just ask for attention, it stood up and claimed it. The setting mattered. Muscle Shoals had already become a quiet powerhouse of American music, and the band behind this recording played with a tight, purposeful energy. But the real center of gravity was that voice, full, commanding, and absolutely certain of itself. One unforgettable detail sits right in the middle of the song, the spelling out of the word itself, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. It wasn't complicated. It didn't need to be. For many listeners at the time, this song carried more than rhythm. It carried a feeling of standing a little taller, of finally saying something out loud that had lived quietly in the heart for years.
Find out what it means to me, R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
Maybe it played while someone was driving home after a long shift, or while the kitchen radio hummed during a busy afternoon. Either way, when that voice came through the speaker, you felt it. Not just as music, but as a statement. And sometimes a song becomes unforgettable simply because it refuses to whisper. If that record carried strength and certainty, the next one returned to something softer, something that felt almost like a conversation between two hearts. Number 8, My Girl by The Temptations.
On a cloudy day.
By 1965, Motown had perfected something very special. The label's records were polished, yes, but they never felt distant. They felt warm, welcoming, and unmistakably human. And this song might be one of the clearest examples of that magic.
We feel this way, my girl, my girl.
Before a single word is sung, those opening guitar notes arrive like sunlight through a window. Bright, gentle, and instantly familiar. Then comes the voice, smooth, hopeful, and just a little bit proud. David Ruffin's vocal had a way of carrying emotion without ever sounding heavy. In this recording, he sings with the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly how lucky he is. One beautiful detail sits in the background, the bass and rhythm section moving together with almost effortless grace. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. For many people, this was the kind of song that played during early romance, the nervous excitement of young love, the warmth of holding someone's hand for the first time. It reminded listeners that sometimes happiness doesn't arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives quietly and stays longer than you expected. But not every memory from the 1960s felt this light. The next song carried a deeper ache, the kind that comes when love slips through your fingers. We'll step into that feeling with number 7. Number 7, Try a Little Tenderness by Otis Redding.
That's all you got to do.
By 1966, soul music had begun to stretch its emotional reach. It wasn't only about rhythm anymore. It was about vulnerability, patience, and understanding. This recording unfolds slowly, almost like someone gathering their thoughts before speaking from the heart. At first, the arrangement is gentle. Soft horns, a steady rhythm, and a voice that sounds like it's leaning close to tell you something important. Otis Redding had a way of singing that felt completely unguarded. You could hear the gravel in his tone, the ache beneath the strength. He never sounded polished in the traditional sense, but that was exactly the point. One of the most remarkable details of this song is how it grows. The performance begins tender and restrained, then gradually rises until the entire band seems to lift with him. By the final moments, it feels less like a recording and more like a release of emotion that had been building all along. For many listeners, this was the kind of song that played late at night. Maybe after an argument. Maybe after realizing someone you loved needed patience more than words. It reminded people that love isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's simply about kindness, offered at the right moment. And that quiet lesson made the song linger long after the last note faded. If that record asked for tenderness, the next one carried a different feeling altogether. Not heartbreak, not anger, just the gentle confusion of realizing someone has already taken hold of your heart. Number 6, You've Really Got a Hold on Me by Smokey Robinson and the Miracles.
You really got a hold on me, alright.
In the early 1960s, Motown had a remarkable ability to turn complicated feelings into songs that sounded effortless. This one arrived in 1962, and it captured a kind of emotional tug-of-war many people knew well. The groove is relaxed, almost conversational. Nothing about the rhythm pushes too hard. It simply moves forward, allowing the voice to carry the story. And Smokey Robinson's voice had a special quality that few singers could match. It wasn't loud or overpowering. Instead, it floated just above the music, full of quiet vulnerability. One beautiful detail lies in the phrasing. Smokey sings as if he's discovering the truth of the words while they're leaving his mouth. You can hear hesitation, affection, even a little confusion. For listeners back then, this song often felt like an honest confession. That moment when you realize love has tangled its way into your life. even if you're not entirely ready for it. Those feelings don't always arrive with certainty. Sometimes they arrive softly and stay longer than we planned. Somewhere around the middle of a list like this, it's hard not to notice how many memories these songs still carry. And if you're still listening, you're probably someone who remembers them the way we do. Subscribing helps keep these old stories and these old songs alive. But the next record didn't arrive quietly at all. It came with rhythm, movement, and the kind of joy that made it impossible to stay seated. Let's step into that moment with number 5. Number 5, I Heard It Through the Grapevine by Marvin Gaye. By 1968, the sound of soul had grown deeper, darker in some places, more reflective in others. The music still carried rhythm, but it also carried suspicion, questions, and quiet heartbreak. This song arrived right in the middle of that mood. From the very first seconds, the arrangement creates a feeling of tension. The slow groove moves almost like someone pacing across a room, trying to make sense of troubling news. And then the voice enters. Marvin Gaye didn't simply sing this song, he inhabited it. There's a controlled restraint in his delivery, as if he's holding something back while trying to remain calm. One powerful detail sits inside the rhythm section, the haunting strings that hover in the background. They give the record a feeling of unease, like whispers traveling through a neighborhood. For listeners in the late 60s, this song often felt painfully familiar. That moment when you hear something about someone you love, and suddenly the ground beneath your feet shifts. Not anger at first, just disbelief. Because sometimes heartbreak arrives not with shouting, but with a quiet realization that things may never be the same. And that slow realization is what gives this record its lasting weight. If that song carried suspicion and doubt, the next one returned to something lighter, something full of playful confidence and rhythm. A reminder that sometimes the best music simply makes the room feel brighter. Number 4, Mustang Sally by Wilson Pickett. When this record rode onto the airwaves in 1966, it brought with it a different kind of energy. Not loud chaos, just irresistible groove. The rhythm section opens the door first, laying down a beat that feels almost impossible to ignore. It's the kind of rhythm that makes people tap the steering wheel, sway in their seats, or drift a little closer to the dance floor. And then comes that unmistakable voice. Wilson Pickett didn't sing gently. His delivery carried grit, swagger, and a sense that he knew exactly how much fun the band was having. Got to push it flat, feet on the ground. One small recording detail adds to the magic, the way the horns answer his vocal lines. They don't overpower him. They tease and respond, almost like a lively conversation between friends. For many people in the 1960s, this was the kind of song that filled crowded dance halls, small clubs, and living rooms where furniture had been pushed aside. All you wanna do is fly around, Sally. It wasn't about complicated emotions. It was about movement, laughter, and the simple joy of being young in the moment. And sometimes the songs we remember best are the ones that simply made us feel alive. But the next record on this list carried something different again. Not celebration, not heartbreak, something quieter and far more enduring. We'll arrive there with number 3. Number 3, When a Man Loves a Woman by Percy Sledge. Some songs don't feel like performances at all. They feel like confessions. When this record arrived in 1966, it carried a kind of emotional honesty that listeners recognized immediately. The arrangement is simple: organ, gentle rhythm, a slow rise of horns. But nothing about it feels small, because the center of the song is that voice. Percy Sledge sang as if the words were arriving straight from his heart, without rehearsal or protection. There's a fragile ache in the way he stretches certain lines, as though he's trying to hold on to something already slipping away. One beautiful detail comes from the way the band holds back during the verses. The instruments leave space, allowing the emotion in the vocal to fill the room. For many people listening in the 1960s, this was the kind of record that arrived during moments of quiet reflection. Maybe late in the evening. Maybe after realizing just how deeply someone had entered your life. Love can lift us higher than anything else, but it can also leave us feeling completely exposed. And this song understood that better than almost any record of its time. That honesty is what allowed it to stay with people long after the decade itself had passed. If that song spoke about love at its most vulnerable, the next one carried a different kind of strength, a quiet pride, a sense of identity that refused to be hidden. Number 2, A Change Is Gonna Come by Sam Cooke.
Change gonna come. Oh, yes it will.
By 1964, the world outside the recording studio was changing quickly. Music was beginning to reflect that movement, sometimes gently, sometimes boldly. And this song stood at the center of that shift. The opening orchestration feels almost cinematic.
A long time coming, but I know.
With strings rising slowly, like the beginning of a long journey. But once the voice arrives, the song becomes deeply personal. Sam Cooke's delivery is calm, but there's a quiet weight behind every word. He sings with the patience of someone who has carried hope for a very long time.
I go to the movie, and I go.
One powerful detail in the recording is the subtle swell of the orchestra behind his voice. The music rises and falls almost like breathing, reinforcing the sense of determination within the lyrics. For many listeners in the 1960s, this wasn't simply another soul record. It was reassurance.
I've been time that I thought I could laugh.
A reminder that change, even when slow, was still possible. The song carried sorrow, but it also carried belief. And that balance gave it a kind of strength that continues to echo decades later. And now we arrive at the final song, a record that didn't shout for attention, but once it entered people's lives, it never really left. We'll remember that one together in number 1. Number 1, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding.
I'll be sitting when the evening comes.
By the time this song reached listeners in 1968, the decade itself was beginning to feel different. The optimism of the early 60s had been tested. The world seemed louder, faster, sometimes harder to understand. And right in the middle of that moment arrived a record that felt unusually quiet.
Sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time.
The opening guitar doesn't rush. It simply sets a gentle shoreline, like waves moving in and out against wooden docks. Then the voice begins. Otis Redding sings here with a calm we didn't often hear from him before. The grit is still there, but the urgency is gone. Instead, the performance carries a sense of reflection, as if he's sitting alone with his thoughts, watching the world drift by. One unforgettable detail comes at the very end of the song, the soft whistling that closes the record. It wasn't planned as some grand artistic flourish. It was simply Otis filling the space in a way that felt natural. But somehow, that simple whistle made the ending feel even more human.
And this loneliness won't leave me alone.
For many listeners back then, this became the kind of song that played during moments of stillness. Maybe sitting on a porch in the evening. Maybe driving alone with the windows down. It wasn't about excitement. It was about understanding that life moves forward whether we rush or not. And sometimes the most honest thing we can do is simply sit for a moment and listen. Looking back now, the 1960s feel both close and far away. These songs didn't just fill the airwaves, they filled the spaces where our lives were unfolding. First apartments, first heartbreaks, long drives, quiet kitchens.
Now I'm just gonna sit at the dock of a bay.
Nights when the radio stayed on just a little later than it should have. The voices behind these records became companions. And the remarkable thing is, they still are. So, if some of these songs brought back a memory tonight, someone's face, a familiar room, the sound of an old radio glowing in the dark, then you already understand why we keep returning to them. Thank you for remembering with me. And if you'd like to open another door to those years, there's another collection waiting on the screen now. Did you grow up in the 1970s? These 10 R&B songs will make you homesick for the 70s. More songs that once filled the night and never truly faded away. I'll see you there.